Gallery lights at dusk, confessions by closing time. My name is Julian and my job is to keep priceless things from learning bad habits. I'm the chief of security at the Rothwell Museum of Art. Halls, cameras, velvet ropes that pretend velvet can do anything. On paper, I schedule guards, review incident reports, sign off on overnight courier logs, and stand with my hands folded while donors mistake me for furniture. In practice, I translate appetite. Visitors want to stand close enough to be chosen. Trustees want immortality on a wall with a plaque. Curators want miracles on a budget. I carry a 4-inch flashlight that believes in cross-examination, a ring of keys the size of a small argument, and a notebook that remembers what people forget when they think paintings don't talk. I live with Rafa. He's a paramedic who knows how to ask a body to stay and how to keep it quiet after it does. He comes home smelling like antiseptic and streetlight, drops his boots by the door as if they were waiting for news, and kisses me in the key of certainty. We keep a rule on an index card taped to the fridge under a magnet shaped like the museum's floor plan. Say it by closing. The gallery's empty at 6. We say the dangerous nouns by 7. We wrote the rule after a winter when midnight turned honesty into theater, and we forgot applause was not repair. The Thursday the cameras behaved and I didn't, we were rehearsing the museum's favorite performance, Gala. The new wing wanted to be christened with champagne and 3 speeches. The donor wall gleamed like a verdict, and my radio spat polite panic in every direction. At 5:56 p.m., with the last public visitors drifting toward the shop, my phone vibrated with the joint email Rafa and I use for deliveries and the kinds of receipts you don't admit you keep. Thank you for your stay, the Halcyon. Time 12:083:02. Points 200 added. Closing shifted from a policy to a person at my shoulder and whispered, quietly and correctly, no. I didn't call him. Our second rule is for everything not yet a disaster, 2 loops around the courtyard before nomming it. My loop passes the Henry Moore sculpture that looks like gravity taking a breath. The fountain in the center says the same sentence water always prefers. You already know. A child pressed a forehead to the glass and told a bronze to behave. A docent rehearsed kindness. I finished walking circles and went back inside the building I'm paid to believe. He was waiting in the lobby where good intentions wear tuxedos. Lucian Vale, he said, offering a hand and the sort of smile that introduces itself before your name clears customs. The placard on the donor and consultant list called him an acquisitions advisor, which is what you name a hunter when you want the prey to feel flattered. I'd seen him around town, air-kissing the season, shaking off controversies like lint. He looked at me like a guard rail he was tempted to borrow. You're the man who makes the walls brave, he said. I make the doors honest, I said. Which is braver, he said, and then added as if I owed him a drink, walk me through the West Galleries. I promise not to touch anything except the champagne. I walked him through anyway because that's what you do when donors hire men like him. You show them the route so they don't improvise one. He didn't touch the art. He touched the air near it the way rich men do when they want credit for restraint. In Gallery 23, he stood in front of a Morandi and practiced humility. In 24, he stood in front of a contemporary piece shaped like a question mark and practiced interest. He watched me watch the room. You look like a man who can hear paintings think, he said. Drink after. I'm in the Halcyon if your schedule believes in degenerate choices. Rafa texted at 6:15, double shift. The city forgot how to breathe. Dinner is whatever is green and not suspicious. Closing. I typed a heart and the silhouette of the museum. I meant it. Then the building did the thing buildings do. It leaned. The Halcyon bar exists to absolve. The carpeting has opinions about repentance. Lucien sat where the lighting believes in cheekbones. He asked what it feels like to guard what you can't fix, and I told him it's like standing in the doorway of history with a broom. He laughed softly and touched the back of my hand with two fingers like a man checking whether a wire is live. He didn't say, "Here." He knew economy. I didn't say, "Now." I stood with him, and the elevator did what elevators do. It turned movement into permission. His room smelled like citrus and expensive forgetting. He kissed like a man who has been applauded for restraint and decided to try applause for hunger. He pressed me against the window, and the skyline acted blasé with professional vigor. He was generous where biography funds generosity, and selfish where mouths remember being alive. I put my hands where agreements live. We left the lamp on because daylight had been in the contract since the bar. After, he lay on his stomach and watched the ice melt in a water glass like a critic. "You'll forgive him," he said, meaning Rafa, meaning the person I count heartbeats for in a city that steals them. "I'll speak at closing," I said. He smiled as if I had pronounced a donor's name correctly on the first try. Rafa was home when I crept in, scrubs soft with detergent and exhaustion, a line from a monitor ghosting across his gaze. We stood under the floor plan magnet at 6:59 and I told him nouns. Hotel, elevator, mouth, hands, yes. I didn't try to move the nouns into more flattering parts of speech. "Do you love him?" he asked, not to diagnose but to know whether he had to set a bone. "I love the hour where nobody needs me to be in charge," I said. He nodded and wrote under our rule in his medic script. "No rooms we can't name at this table. If we break something, we break it before midnight together." He underlined together twice, then took my wrist and counted nothing the way you do when counting says I'm here. Lucien didn't believe in one-night sins. He believed in curricula. He arrived to the gala with an entourage of money and mischief. He lingered near the Lanciers and cooed. He told an alderman that public art is a mirror that forgives. He told a trustee that our climate control was performing promise. He sent me a photo of the empty lobby at dawn with the caption "Proof," which made me want to unplug every camera in the building. He learned the names of two of my guards and used them like tokens in a machine he intended to win. The gossip vertical that pretends it is culture published a grainy elevator still from the halcyon. My shoulder, a mouth that had practiced being bad at being good, a caption that tried to make a pun with gala. Rafa didn't send it. He printed it and taped it inside the baking pan drawer for exactly the time it takes to preheat regret, then removed it at 7 and replaced it with the grocery list. This is how he archives. Nothing will trip over. Props love museums because museums love story. The halcyon called the museum switchboard, someone there knows our receptionist, about a ring found in a room tied to an email I use when I don't want to be private or honest. Thin gold, engraved L plus J not mine. The clerk asked if I wanted to claim it. I said hold for owner, with the voice that makes teenage taggers hand me Sharpies like evidence. Lucien collected it that night in the lobby with the calm of a man who has never lost anything he didn't plan to replace. Work tried to rescue me with petty facts. A laser motion sensor hiccuped near the Rothko, lying about a fly like it had discovered a thief. A courier arrived with a crate that claimed to be an installation and turned out to be an argument. I wrote up 2 incidents, denied a third, replaced the battery in a guard's walkie, and watched the way Lucien moved through rooms like a decision. Then the little red light blinked where consent doesn't live. Myra, my best overnight, found a recording device, cheap, sticky, patient, taped under the bench in Gallery 12, where people sit to remember their names. It had collected 3 nights of not quite whispers. The way we lean when art leans back, the first draft of envy, the admissions you let your breath hold for you while you stare at light. I peeled the device off with a painter's knife, and my stomach learned a new grammar. The sticker on the battery belonged to a firm hired to enhance visitor engagement, the kind of phrase that wants to be prosecuted. I'd heard Lucien brag about knowing their founder. The museum's council wrote an email with the word regrettable in a tone that wanted to be illegal. We posted a sign in 6 languages reminding the building that surprise is not consent. At closing, I told Rafa everything that had turned my job into a genre. The ring, the recorder, the photo, the carpet that forgives sinners too quickly. He made coffee like a medication. "Are we trying to be interesting?" he asked, not cruelly. "Or are we trying to be together?" I looked at the floor plan magnet and remembered which galleries we spend the most time in. The small room with 4 Rembrandts where light remembers to be humble. The corridor where a student installation asks you to be wrong more often. "Together," I said, and meant it as if the gallery label had finally gotten the medium right. Lucien tried a finale because men who manage art for other men think closings are for amateurs. He waited for me in the west stairwell, pressed a shoulder to the cool of the wall, and held up the ring between forefinger and thumb. "Say my name," he said softly, as if it were contraband. I said Lucien, and watched him smile like a donation just became irrevocable. Then I added exit, because there is a time to be a man and a time to be a guard. If you came for the erotics notarized, here is all the inventory I can keep. There was a wall, a yes, hands where we agreed they belonged, a mouth that believed in the moment more than the man. The lamp stayed on because daylight had been written into the terms like provenance. Heat did what heat is designed to do. Stories tried to follow and then learned to wait their turn. If you came for intrigue plated in courses, the ring with arithmetic that wants to act like law, the recorder with a battery the size of bad faith, the elevator camera that thinks it writes criticism, the donors who figure sincerity is a wine pour. If you came for redemption, museums rarely provide it. We provide context and a gift shop. The recorder mess resolved with the kind of boring that keeps institutions useful. The firm was dismissed. The museum issued a statement about values that made staff roll their eyes and then get back to work. Council approved the new signage. We added a line to the standard tour about listening without stealing. In the shop, someone printed "consent is not implied" on a tote bag. I bought one and gave it to Rafa. He laughed and said, "Put your lunch in it." The ring's other initial presented himself like relief with cufflinks. Carter. He introduced himself as just that, arrived at the Halcyon with a lawyer who was paid to look kind. He retrieved the band with a nod to the clerk and a nod to me, the second one containing a sentence we were both too adult to say out loud. "Thank you for not helping me write a worse story." Lucien texted once more from a number that looked like a pop-up restaurant. "You were precise." I wrote back, "We prefer accurate," and muted the thread. Precision flatters, accuracy works. Rafa and I practiced boring like it was modern art. You have to stand there long enough to learn how to see. He came home at dawn with a bruise in the shape of a city, and put his hand on my throat with the gentleness of someone who has never once used a hand for harm. "Here?" he asked. "Now," I said, because consent likes schedule. We left the lamp on for once because daylight had asked for a seat at the table. Work stayed work. I denied access to a man who believed a checkbook was a badge. I let a child stand on tiptoe for an extra minute in front of a painting that has outlived everybody's arguments. I adjusted a camera to forgive an angle. I wrote a note to Myra about seeing everything and not dying from it. I walked the courtyard loop twice when my head pretended to be a gallery of mistakes. At closing, we read our index card and added a line in neat medic print. "If you burn something, do it where I can see and help find water." We didn't laminate it. Paper should breathe. The magnet held. The floor plan stayed a joke and a map. We ate pasta that behaved and pears that didn't. He fell asleep like a man paid by the city to believe in the next siren. I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook and wrote, carefully, this: "For a few hours at a time I keep the walls brave. For a few hours at a time I keep my mouth honest. The rest is practice." If you need an ending, the museum will not provide one. We do rotations. We do closures for conservation. We do wall text that admits ignorance with grace. The paintings stay, mostly. The people don't. Lucian will find another plaque to lean against. Carter will wear his ring or he won't. Rafa will count to 60 while someone tries. I will hold out a hand when a child leans too far. I will tell a donor no with the voice that doesn't apologize. I will stand in the doorway of a gallery after hours and listen to the quiet tell me the one sentence that constitutes policy and love at once. You already know. And at 7, because the building insists, I will say it. Then I'll lock the doors, go home, and try again.